Hello and welcome to your Urban Connection. And you know that we here at your Urban Connection, we do our utmost to inform and educate our audience on all matters dealing with African Americans throughout the state and across the country. And today we have an exciting guest. I'm very honored to have her. And I want her to tell you about what she has in mind for the Kansas City Wyandotte area if she is to be elected in August. Is it August? That when your election is?
Yes, August 5th is the primary, November 4th is the general.
Okay, all right.
Mm.
But before I introduce you to her, I'm going to do a commercial and tell you about our sponsor. And I've got some good news. You heard me talk about BB Express, Barbecue Express, which is located at 6249 East 21st Street. And I've got some really good news for you I want to share. First of all, I want to tell you, let me put up the location here. But the first thing I want to tell you is that they are now open on Sundays. And they're open on Sundays from 11 until 5 o'clock. That's every Sunday. So if you want to go and have some good barbecue from a full service sit down restaurant, here is where you go. Barbecue Express at 6249 East 21st Street. Now, the second bit of good news that I have for you is they are now serving their fresh catfish. Okay, they have that, and it's available in a dinner style. You can get one piece dinner with two sides and hush puppies, or two-piece dinner with two sides and hush puppies, or three-piece. Okay, so that's it. Barbecue Express, 6249 East 21st. And I got a third good news item for you. Tell them that I sent you, and you'll receive a free 20-ounce soft drink. Okay? Just tell them that Barfield sent you and receive a free 20-ounce soft drink of your choice. Okay? All right. Now let's get back to the show. And let me go here. And I want to introduce my guest to you. My guest is a candidate for mayor in Wyandotte County. Okay, that's in Kansas City, Kansas. And her name is Christal Watson. Ms. Watson, welcome to the show. I'm delighted to have you, ma'am.
Thank you for having me. I
All
appreciate
right, now,
it.
Ms. Watson, you are currently the executive director of the Kansas City, Kansas School Foundation for Excellence. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and how long have you been at that position, ma'am?
I have been here since 2019.
Okay, okay. Now, looking at your I won't say resume, but your history, you are a native of Kansas City, Kansas. Is that correct?
That is correct. I am what they call a dot.
Okay, all right, that. Was that one T or two T's?
Two T's.
Okay, okay. Now, ma'am, I want to say something to you. I want to, I've looked at your LinkedIn page,
Mhm.
and I want to tell you, I'm amazed. You have credentials that a lot of people that run for president don't have.
Oh
Okay.
my
You
goodness.
have an
Thank
impressive array of community involvement in the Kansas City, Kansas area for what, 30 to 40 years or better?
I would say a good 30 years for
Okay.
sure. Yes, but you're
Okay.
right. 30 to 40. Wow. When I think about that, it makes me feel old now.
No, no, no. No, no. Listen, as they say, experience is the best teacher.
Yes,
So
it is.
with
Yes, it
your
is.
resume and you've been involved in a range of politics. You once served on the school board there in Kansas City, Kansas.
Yes, yes,
You were appointed by the governor to the Kansas Human Rights Commission.
yes,
You've been involved as executive director of the Heartland Black Chamber of Commerce.
yes, sir. I
Your
have.
resume just, I mean, it's political, it's community, it's profit and nonprofit.
Yes.
It consists of the white business, everything. You run the full gamut. So tell me a little bit about yourself, man. Tell my audience who you are.
Well, what you didn't mention is my personal. So, you did say that I am a dot from Wyandotte County. So I was born and raised at KU Medical Center. which is right here in the backyard of Wyandotte County. And I am the oldest daughter of three girls to Neil Poindexter and Myris Poindexter. And Neil Poindexter was one of the first Black voices on KBZ KBR radio back in the day. It
Okay.
was easy listening music. So I am the daughter of a broadcaster and a minister. My mother is a minister and grew up at one of the largest Black Baptist churches in Wyandotte County, which was A Street Baptist Church.
Okay.
So that's my humble beginnings. And now here we are. I have four sons, two grandchildren, and my youngest son is 24. My oldest is 40, 41 to be exact.
Okay.
And life has been good. Life has been good. Most of my business career, I would say I spent 17 years at Sprint. And Sprint taught me how to be very results oriented. And everything was about accountability, being held accountable to the work you do, and of course, getting the job done. So I
Hmm.
am very results driven, if you will. But now this nonprofit, which has literally just changed my life, has set me on this mission course, if you will, to serve people and to understand what servant leaders do. And that's what I've spent the last 20 years doing.
Okay.
So I have from 10 years with the Black Chamber and I might add, we were the KBCC Inc., which was Kansas Black Chamber of Commerce. Under my leadership, we went regional and we changed the name to Heartland Black Chamber of Commerce,
Mhm.
which I worked with Bernard Knowles to
Okay.
start the Wichita Heartland Black
Yes.
Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of my background that maybe a lot of folks don't know. So I have some really good close ties to Wichita.
Okay.
I know some great people there. So I'm excited about having been able to do that. That's probably one of the legacy leaving, notes that I can say that I'm very proud of being able to do is to work with Wichita to start the Black Chamber there. So that's,
Sure. Okay. Now, on the mayor's race, ma'am, you are one of six people that are running for this position. Is
yes,
that correct?
correct.
And with your history, your work history, your community involvement history, whatever you built up, I have to assume quite a network of people that
Yeah.
you, know what you're capable of doing, know what your potential is. And but I want to ask you a question. Why did you decide to run for mayor?
Because I want to be part of the solution and not the problem. And I'm
Okay.
sum it up that way. As you mentioned, I have a career across several industries. So I have a broad background from real estate to education to business to government relations to community relations to education. And because of that, I feel that I know that I am highly qualified to do the work. When you look at what the role of a mayor is, it's really about establishing good relationships with the council, working unified with the council to get things done according to their districts, and then understanding the needs of the people and working with key stakeholders and community leaders to ensure that those needs are met. And I have the experience to be able to do that. So, what excites me the most about this is I can bring this network that I have collected over the years to the table. I can
Yep.
help bring resources through those networks to the table. And that is the primary reason why I'm running. Wyandotte County is my heart, it's my home. And I love living in Wyandotte County. I see Wyandotte County's potential, and I am encouraged by its potential and its people and the prosperity that can come from my leadership. And not just from me, but from the community at large and from others who care about Wyandotte County. And when you look at, I don't know, the greater metropolitan area of Kansas City, but even broader than that, when you look at us as a region, when one is down, so is the other. And so I want Wyandotte County to be a contributor to the success of the region that we bring to the region. And I know that I am able to do that.
Okay.
I also feel led divinely to do it. And I believe that my career has gone in the direction it has because I believe I'm capable of helping and bringing the right resources to the table. Wyandotte County is a diamond in the rough,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a jewel. And we've only scratched the surface to what its potential can be. So I want to help maximize our potential. I want us to move forward and onward as we grow together as a community.
Okay, ma'am, I want to talk a little bit about your platform. You indicate three things that you would want to do. You want to reset,
Mm-hmm.
rebuild,
Mm-hmm.
and what's the third one?
Renew.
Renew. Tell me
Yes.
what you mean. Tell me what you mean by that.
So first and foremost, when I talk about reset, I just want us to forget about what happened yesterday. Forget about what happened 10 years ago. Forget about, the division that people see publicly between the mayor's office and, the commissioners.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about what we didn't do or should have done or could have done. Let's push the reset button. It's a new
Okay.
day. Let's start over, right? Let's put away our agendas and let's renew our pride about our community and about the city. And let's share the positive experiences that we have about Wyandotte County, and let's begin to rebuild in areas that we know have needed it. And not just rebuilding physically, but also rebuilding relationships, right? And building new relationships,
Okay.
relationships that we never even had before. And so that's what I talk about when I talk about reset, renew, and rebuild.
Okay. Okay. Now, I'm glad to hear you say that, and I want to tell you, uh, I have uh, intentions of talking about what you just said a little later in the program. I'll
Okay.
get to that a little later, but I want to
Yeah.
expand on that because your current mayor, who I'm friends with, I know, uh, he in 2021 when he was elected, he was very enthused about what he wanted to do once he was in that seat,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't turn out that way. So we'll talk about that a little later. Now, I was going to ask you this. So, what is the population of Wyandotte County?
We are about, the total population for Wyandotte County is about 169,000 in
Okay.
population. It might be a little less than that. I think it might have gone down to about 167. But that's around about the figure that we're at.
All right. And what's the percentage of Black population?
So that's gone down a little bit. I think we're at about 20% in
Okay.
African American, then we've gone up in Hispanic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, when you talk about, and one of the things you talk about is economic development.
Yes.
And Wyandotte, like so many other cities, there are certain parts of it that are experiencing great economic development. And then there's parts that are not.
Yes.
Uh, is that part of what you intend to deal with? The part that is basically not enjoying the fruits that other parts of your city are enjoying?
So the plan is to look at all areas. So we don't want to lose progress on the momentum that we've had of development in areas where we're seeing it the most. And so let's just be transparent. Out west,
Mm-hmm.
the Legends area continues to grow. We don't want to lose momentum there.
Sure.
But we also do want to make sure that we're seeing development in other areas like Argentine and Rosedale and Armourdale and the Northeast area to be exact.
Mhm.
So I can tell you specifically, James, that the plan is to take a look at all of our areas, right? But prioritize the ones that need it the most, absolutely, without losing momentum that we currently have. And I'll give you an example of there are over 4,000 land bank parcels that
Mm-hmm.
are currently not paying any taxes.
Okay.
Property that unified government has acquired that does
Mm-hmm.
not pay any taxes because it now sits in a land bank.
Sure.
And when you do personal property, and I think we did some like just generic numbers, you average that to about, I don't know, $2,600 per household. That's about $10 million
Mm-hmm.
that we are deficient that we could within our
Sure.
tax base.
Sure.
So my overall plan is to increase the tax base
Okay.
because our more affluent areas are really carrying the load.
Mm-hmm.
And our biggest concern is that we're in the areas where we don't have a strong tax base or a lower income of a tax base. They're not getting the same amenities. And so
Mm-hmm.
the objective is to try to level the playing field as much as possible without losing the ground that we already have, right? Because the Legend area, there's still a lot of land mass that we can use in that area. And you still have developers that are attracted to it. The goal is to make sure that we have developers attracted to all areas of
Mm-hmm.
Wyandotte County.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope I'm answering that in that, yeah, we still want to do that, but there is absolutely a plan to address the areas in which we are not growing and of course be able to attract, developers to come to those areas as well. And that means that we have got to look at our policy. So if you notice on my website, the platform is people, process, and policy.
Yes.
And so in order to do that, we've got to look at what our policies are and are the processes connected enough where they're efficient that meets the needs of the people?
Mm-hmm.
And are those processes and policies in place enough that they benefit the people as well? And we'll do that through 4 areas. We'll do it through infrastructure, we'll do it through workforce and business, not only focus on large business, but small business as well, because they're the heartbeat of every community, right?
Sure.
Gotta support our small business owners. Uh, and then make sure, though, that people are at good wages so that they can earn a living and not just have a job so
Sure.
they can support their families. And then housing is the third area. I mean, if people aren't making enough money to buy a house, I can't I can't increase the tax base by,
Right.
taking a land bank parcel and turn it into housing. Then they can't afford the house, right?
Right.
So we've got to get people up in skill sets, work really diligently, do that, but then focus on those contractors and developers that want to come in and create new housing because we need more housing. And the last thing is through community. And under community is healthcare, it is education and crime, as well as transportation. Uh, Wyandotte County is the unhealthiest county in the state of Kansas. We have been in the bottom 3 for the last 20 years. We need to address that because that's one of the social determinants that prevent our families from growing and from being sustainable. And then we need to continue to support education, continue to support Kansas Police Department has done a fabulous job under Chief Oakman now, who has helped reduce crime up to 30% in Wyandotte County. And of course, continue to look at our transportation and how we can help people get to jobs, get to school, get to wherever they need.
Okay, let me ask you, I'm going to go back to something you said there earlier on. You talked about infrastructure.
Yes.
Now, in that one area that we're talking about, is the infrastructure in place to accommodate what you want to do?
Are you talking about so that is a very good question. And no, it is not. There are infrastructure needs needed in some of the other areas outside of the west. So you got the east and the west. You got west of 635 and east of 635.
Right. Right.
So infrastructure needs to be updated. particularly east of 635, right? And that absolutely is the area that is needed the most.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Now, all of these homes or potential home sites that you talk about,
Yeah.
uh, if the infrastructure was in place, do you think that you would have it would have more of an appeal to developers to come in and invest in that area?
Yes, I do. I do. And I know that unified government is working towards that goal. I mean, they have a plan for infrastructure. I think part of it is not having the funding. That's a big reason why we haven't seen as much infrastructure as we'd like to see. But I think we also have not done a good job of pursuing federal grants that have been available. And so there have been some missed opportunities because there wasn't a grant writer on staff at Unified
Okay.
Government. And so that's one of the things that I want to change is that's one of those low hanging fruit things we're gonna do, James, in the first 90 days when I'm in office is
Okay.
get a grant writer hired because we haven't. And I was a part of Leadership Kansas, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but Leadership Kansas is done under the Kansas Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
And it's a program where about 40 people, professionals, are selected, and they get, oh my gosh, up to 400 applications for people to be part of Leadership Kansas. And I had the wonderful opportunity of being selected. And we went to different cities throughout the state of Kansas. And one of the things I noticed is that um, for those communities that were able to help restructure or build on the infrastructure they had and update it, they went out and got grants.
Sure.
And there were some very strong private-public partnerships. And so that's one of the other things that I want to be able to work on is strengthening our private and public partnerships for us to be able to do, some of the things that we need to do, like building on infrastructure and of course getting more grant opportunities, seeking those at a federal and state level.
Okay. Now, when you talk about this, one of the things I want to ask you is the governor of the state of Kansas likes to brag about the fact that currently they're sitting on a budget surplus of anywhere from 2.4 to $2.9 billion.
Mhm.
Are you seeking, or will you be seeking, any help financially from the governor of the state of Kansas?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
So I think having been appointed by Governor Kelly to sit on the Kansas Human Rights Commission speaks volume. And not only do I sit on that commission board, but I'm also the chair. She appointed me as chair.
Okay.
So without question, I will try to leverage that relationship to
Okay.
identify how they want to utilize that surplus to our advantage for Wyandotte County. Absolutely.
Okay. One of the problems that I have with, I know here in Wichita and probably Topeka and some other cities, is that while the governor likes to brag about all that money that's sitting there idle, cities like yours, like Wichita and Topeka and other cities, are sitting there, and the officials that represent the constituents in those cities are not asking for any money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not going to get it if you don't ask for it. I mean, it's tough enough to try to get it even if you ask for it. But who is your state's who's your senator? Is that Haley? Is
Yes.
Haley senator for your area?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you do you have a good working relationship with Senator Haley?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So do you feel that Senator Haley could be of help to you in accomplishing some of the things you want to accomplish there in Wyandotte County?
Yes. And it doesn't just stop there. We have state representatives in
Yes.
several districts. Uh,
Yes.
and it's so funny. That was an excellent question you asked, James, because I asked, as when I thought about running for mayor, and I knew that in running for mayor, I needed to have a plan. And
Hmm.
So part of that was asking our state representatives, hey, do we ever ask you guys for help? Like, do we
Mhm.
ever come to you? Does the mayor's office ever? And very rarely are they sought. Not to say that they're not,
Yeah.
but there's opportunity for us to do more. And that is one of the areas I consider to be low-hanging fruit that
Hmm.
we can build on. What I say, rebuild relationships, renew relationships, particularly with our state representatives,
You
because
know,
they're very directly working in districts. And so I think having a unified purpose, working on things together will tell us how the mayor's office can better help you and vice versa. Then we
mhm,
can collectively go after funding, right?
sure,
But you got to know what to ask for. And I think
sure.
many times communities don't know what to ask for. And you have to have a plan on how you're going to utilize those funds. And your plan needs to include how you're going to hold yourself accountable and how you're going to
Mhm.
measure those outcomes. Because without that, the state's not just going to throw money at you just because you asked for it because they have it. So
Sure.
I think we'll be more prepared. The team that I will assemble will be very much prepared to know exactly what we want to ask for and how we're going to utilize those funds and provide a timeline on when we think we can have those funds dispersed.
Well, ma'am, when you talk about the fact that people don't know exactly what to ask for, the constituents depend on the elected officials to know what
Yes,
to ask for and how to ask for, and to have what you said, a plan,
gotta have a
you
plan.
know? And what I detest is that, and I don't speak for all of them, I guess, but I see the lack of elected officials to reach out to the Department of Commerce to seek financial assistance for these communities that have uh, food deserts
Yeah,
and all kinds of problems, and they
absolutely.
go day, year, and nobody ever asks for anything.
Nobody ever asked. You're right.
But
That's not gonna happen.
well, okay,
So
okay,
I will tell you, having worked at the chamber, the Black Chamber taught me so much. It taught me how to be resilient. It taught me how to be creative. More importantly, it taught me how to be resourceful.
hmm,
For the longest time, I was a one-man show.
sure,
And what a lot of folks don't know is that when I worked there, I didn't get a salary.
okay,
I was paid when the funds were there. And if I had professional people come in and help, I made sure they were taken care of before I was.
sure,
So thank the Lord for my husband who understood that.
sure, right,
And so for 10 years, I did it, without a salary. And so, it had to been a calling in
sure,
order to do that and to make that sacrifice. But it was the best sacrifice I could have ever made because it taught me how to go after the things that we need and to
sure,
do it with little to nothing. And so
sure,
to be able to do that and to build the chamber to what it is today, and for it to be a regional chamber who not only helped start a Wichita, but a St. Louis chamber
hmm,
as well, that still is thriving today, says a lot about the network
sure,
and building relationships that enable you to get the job done,
yeah, yes, right,
right? So you
right,
can't be afraid to ask for what you want. I just knew before I would ask and think I knew what I wanted the money for.
yeah, yeah,
But then I learned you need to have a plan and you need to be able to articulate how you're going to spend that money and you need to be
right,
able to tell them what the outcome is going to be, right?
right, right,
And you got to stay in communication throughout that process.
yes,
Otherwise, you're not going to get that money again,
right, right,
right?
absolutely. Now, let me ask you, you talked about housing,
Yeah.
and I want to ask you, because this is one of the difficult things today in housing, and this is a problem throughout the nation as far as affordable housing.
Hmm.
Uh, what would you consider? Now, let's talk about that neighborhood you're talking about where all those homes are abandoned or vacant. What would
Hmm.
you consider affordable housing that would be suitable for that area?
There's no such thing as affordable housing.
Okay. Okay.
In the economic climate we're in today, there's
Mhm.
no such thing as affordable
Okay.
housing. With the tariff conditions the way they are, there's no such thing as affordable housing.
Okay.
Um, my theory on it is if you have the money, you can afford it. If
Mhm.
you don't, you can't. And that's why the plan is let's get as many people skilled as possible so they're making more than minimum wage, right?
Mhm.
And then let's work with developers and let's work with our policies. Because maybe some of the policies that we have right now doesn't allow um, like we have narrow lot. There's a policy on narrow lots, you know.
Sure.
I don't know if it's widespread. I mean, those are the kinds of policies I want to look at to see, well, maybe do you think we could change this a little bit because we want to do X, Y, and Z? We need to look more at community land trusts, opportunities. Um, right now, we have a couple of commissioners, they're not too keen on LIHTC
Mhm.
projects, which is low income tax credit.
Sure.
Well, LIHTC can be done almost in any area. There are some restrictions to it, but it's quite possible to do it. We don't, it is a form, it's what we put in our toolbox. And so you
Mhm.
don't necessarily do away with it because you don't like it, right?
Sure.
But there's so many different resources available and tax plans that we could utilize to get the kind of housing we need, right?
Sure. Sure.
But when it comes to a house where you are paying personal property tax, it's really about building or providing funding that allow for incentives for our small. I cannot begin to tell you the number of just minority contractors alone that want to do housing on land bank properties. And so if they're willing to do it, then unified government, we need to come halfway and provide some incentives to allow them to do that.
Sure.
But people are willing to live in a quality home that they feel they can be safe in, a neighborhood they feel they can be safe in. So if I, as mayor, can work on that piece and work with, the police department and, work with unified government, with public works and when it comes to streets and sidewalks, then we're doing our job. And then that allows developers to come in and create the housing we need. I believe we'll find people, right? Working
Sure.
with banks. There are so many banks that'll help pay if you're at a certain income. They have these housing programs that will help you pay part of your closing costs, or they'll help pay some of the down payment. Um, we families need to know about some of those programs so they can get in the housing. But it's got to be
Okay.
accompanied with you being able to maintain
Right. Right.
maintain that house so you don't lose it.
Right. Now, that takes me to when we talk about affordable housing, one of the things to make a house, any house, more affordable is a good job.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
so, what is the job market like for people that you would be representing in your constituents there in the Kansas City area?
Well, I can speak to with the Kansas Public Schools. We have over 20,000 students. Okay. 85% of those students household are free and reduced lunch program. So that means they're low income to poverty.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good portion. 20,000 kids alone out of 167,000, 169,000 population. That's literally 20%. Is well over 10, 15% of the population.
Mm-hmm.
So you multiply that times their families, which
Mm-hmm.
makes up a good portion of the population. So if 85% of them are, low income to poverty, that tells you we have a lot of work to do. One
Sure.
of the things that we've been able to do at the foundation is we have up to 400 families that are considered homeless under the McKinney-Vento Act.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a federal program under the Department of Education, U.S. Department of Education, that says, if a family doesn't have permanent residency for at least a year, they're considered homeless. We have up to 400 families like that.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that the foundation we're trying to do is find um, a location where we can provide housing for those families.
Sure.
And that's a great need. So knowing that when I go into the mayor's office, wow, if we can partner with a foundation that's trying to do that, to be a
Mm-hmm.
catalyst to bring all these stakeholders to the table to provide services that wrap around a family, that we can, find a landlord or a property owner that's willing to allow families to live there according to their income, that's half the battle.
Sure.
And then the next step is, all right, finding the programs that help them get their first home.
Sure.
So it's that kind of connection, that kind of synergy, that kind of partnering that we can bring to the table to help meet the needs of the families who are wanting to be a homeowner.
Okay. Now, I want to go back to something real quick. And you mentioned a while ago about the small lots in this neighborhood you were talking about. I don't know if you were aware, but I just saw here, oh, I think maybe within the last, I don't know, 72 hours, about a housing plan that is being developed. I believe it's in Hutchinson. I'm not
Mhm.
sure that they're building homes, and these are not pre-manufactured, but these are stick homes, and they're building homes that are about 600 square feet in size.
Hmm.
And they, the plan is to sell these for about $75,000.
Wow.
For first time home buyer, that I would think would be attractive to a lot of people. Granted, that home is not going to have all the amenities that a
Mhm.
$200,000 or $500,000 home has. But the first
Right.
time home buyer is not looking for that. But I think that could go a long way toward helping the homeless problem that your city and my
Yeah.
city and other cities are facing. What do you think about something like that?
I think that is something that definitely can be explored. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing off the table.
Okay,
You know,
okay,
you know, the
okay.
the
Oh,
bowl is sitting in the middle of the table. Throw everything in it. And then let's go through it. Let's sort it, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and then let's look at it and take a deep dive at it. For me, anything that's out there, and that's a very good point you bring up, because we really need to know what's going on, not only within the state of Kansas, but outside of Kansas,
Mhm,
on
mhm,
where communities are being productive. Now, I know that our current mayor and the mayors before have done that. I was in the mayor's office, former Mayor David Albee. I was deputy chief of staff over neighborhood and small business development. So I know firsthand that they the intent was, okay, this community is doing really good. They looked at it, researched it and all. The problem is there were no implementation plans. And or at least um, if there was a plan to implement, we didn't get there, right?
sure,
And
sure,
so I'm not sure for what reasons that occurred, but I think some of the plans have, played out, but for the most part, we're still sitting where we were 10 years ago.
sure, sure.
And so as far as I'm concerned, if we got something like that to model, what needs to take place? Well, we need to figure out how we're going to implement it.
Mhm,
We'll need another task force
sure,
to talk about it. We
sure,
need a plan to implement, and where are the resources going to be in order for us to do that.
sure,
Uh, with every one of those areas that I talked to you about, infrastructure, workforce and business, housing and community, there will be an implementation plan that will add to that, so that we are actually working specifically identifying the call to action and how
sure.
we execute.
One of the things I just want to touch on this for a moment, but in most areas like that, developers, if they are attracted to an area, they want to come in and build apartments. Okay.
I do.
And that doesn't do anything to help our position as homeowners.
Yeah.
We need home ownership, you
Yes.
know, but they want to keep building these apartments and $1,000, $1,500 a month, and that can be a monthly payment on your own home.
Right.
You know, somebody
That
has
is
to,
so true.
yeah, somebody has to start thinking outside the box instead of constantly thinking about the fact that, well, you know, we only build homes for 200,000 up or whatever. Well, everybody cannot afford that, you know,
You're right.
and everybody cannot afford to pay $1,000, $1,500 a month for an apartment.
Oh,
You
so
know,
true.
so anyhow, that's just a couple of things that let me move on now. I want to talk to you about the crime situation, and you alluded to it a little bit earlier. But what is the general status of your crime situation there in?
Well, to my knowledge, and I have not had an opportunity to talk to our um, chief of police as of
Mhm,
yet. But to my understanding, they've helped reduce crime by up to 30%. Uh, I think at one point we were at 30%, but I do know that it's at least 20% they've reduced crime. And so the objective for us there is just to continue to have conversations. How can the mayor's office better support the efforts of the police department? I think the county assistant county administrator that the police department reported to had a very good relationship. And I think part of the positive outcome we've seen from the police department is because of that. And
mhm,
so the goal is going to be to continue to have that kind of relationship so that the police department get the support they need to continue to do the job they do. The sheriff's department does well, to my understanding. Um, I think one of the biggest things, the hottest topics, if you will, well, gang violence has always been an issue, but I think the biggest topic right now is our undocumented residents and the fear of ICE. And I believe that there were some conversations or rumors that um, the police department is helping with that. Uh, and it's one of the areas I need to follow up on to ensure
mhm.
that I personally don't, I'll say that because I don't know one way or another. But what I will say is that there is an ordinance within a policy within unified government that prohibits the police department from assisting in the deportation of anyone. So if that is happening, then the police is they're committing a crime. I mean, they're going
Sure,
against policy. I'll put it that
sure,
way.
sure.
So, but people are afraid, and that's a legitimate concern.
Absolutely.
And so we have to be cognizant of that because it's not, it's any, illegal immigrant, right? And we've got over 60 languages spoken just in KCKPS
Hmm.
school district. So USD 500. So that could affect anyone that's an
Sure.
immigrant in our community. Um, so that's really the only thing that I've really heard pressing, if you will, about the police department. Other than that, I feel like they're doing all that they can with the resources that they have, and I think they have excellent leadership to lead them.
Okay. Now I'm going to go back to what I briefly discussed earlier in the program. And
Yes.
your literature says that you want to be the mayor slash CEO of the United Government.
Hmm.
Okay, now
Unified government of Wyandotte County.
unified government. Yeah. Okay. Now here's what I want to talk about. The current mayor, as I told you, was
Mhm,
very excited about what he wanted to do for Wyandotte County when he was elected in 2021.
mhm,
About less than a year ago, he wrote an opinion letter where he said that basically, when the governments of Kansas City, Kansas, and Wyandotte County merged to become the unified government in 1997, the whole idea was to crack down on corruption, spur development, and to do away with one layer of bureaucracy.
mhm.
But the way the charter was written, it had a bunch of unintended consequences. In Garner's view, essentially putting staff in charge though they're unaccountable to either elected officials or voters. How do you feel about that, ma'am?
Um, I think until I can get in there and talk to staff, talk to the commissioners, because that is one opinion. And
Okay,
that does not take away from Mayor Garner at all.
sure.
I think there's two sides to it, and we haven't heard the other side, which are commissioner side, and we
Okay,
haven't heard the third side, which is staff. So I don't have an opinion one way or another in terms of whether he's right or whether he's wrong, right? I don't have an
mhm,
opinion of whether or not, he's on point or not. What I do know is that that is one opinion that I don't know if everyone shares the same. And I believe that it is the mayor's responsibility to ensure that all parties are in agreement.
okay, okay,
And as mayor, if I were mayor, I would be working to do that and to ensure we are in agreement so that it's not contrary to what the other party would say differently. Because
sure,
I bet if you ask the commissioner, they would, their comment might be different,
sure. Okay,
right?
sure. And I can understand it. So let me say this. Um, I'm going to say this right quick, and I'll leave this alone. But we could say this. This could be something that is an issue that is uh, actually factually true in his particular case
Yeah,
that might or might not be in your case. But he's
that is
expressing what
correct.
he has faced.
Right.
Okay, now this is last thing I want to say. Garner is frustrated too by his inability to make change happen or even get information out of unified government employees. He has no ability to hire,
Mm,
fire,
mm.
demote, or discipline. At one time, the mayor was an authority figure, but according to him, that's no longer the case. In other words, he's a mayor in name only. And that's why I asked you in the very beginning of this program why. I didn't know if you were aware of that, any of that,
I
but
was aware, very well aware, and I have talked to Mayor Garner about this very same issue, and this is my take on it. I've been in the mayor's office to see the role of a mayor. I've seen it on the inside. I understand the system of unified government. And Nathan Barnes once told me that you got to know the system.
mhm,
What I also took that as is you got to know your role.
mhm,
And the role of the mayor, their power is in influence. And a person who has the power of influence understands the meaning of relationships and understands how to leverage those relationships towards the things that you want to do. I consider myself to be a person who is very relational and works very hard at building positive relationships.
mhm,
And so I I feel like I've learned. um, I think that Mayor Garner has opened up a lot, right? He has broken up the a system that has operated in a certain vein, and now they really can't anymore. Um, and it has exposed, whether good or bad, it has exposed a lot for us
mhm,
to look at and to consider more. And I, I hate to say, I'm gonna do this and then it don't happen. But what I am very confident in is my ability to work with people.
okay,
And I believe that I've learned from past mayors to understand how to do that. And I am counting on not having the same experience that Garner had. I believe he might have trailblazed the way for the next mayor so that they
mhm,
don't.
okay,
I don't, I'm not gonna walk into this role thinking that, well, might as well expect him to disagree because, Garner couldn't get it done. So, I'm just gonna go in here and do what I think I need to do. I'm not going in there that way. And I'll tell you, when I decided to run for mayor, the first people that I called were commissioners.
okay,
And I called each and every one of them, James, and I said, hey, I respect your position. I want you to know I honor what you do and appreciate what you've done for your districts. I'm planning on running for mayor, and I just want you to know before I announce it. I don't want you to be surprised. I want
Hmm.
you to know that if you want to talk to me one-on-one, if you have questions for me, I'm happy to meet with you one-on-one.
Sure.
And each and every one of them, even Mr. Burrows, who is running for mayor, he'll tell you I did call, and I did that with every last one of our commissioners because I want them to know I want us to start off on the right foot. And if that means calling you, I don't have to do that. You
Sure.
know, I don't have to
Sure.
call them and say, hey, I'm running for mayor.
Right.
Um, but I wanted them to know that I respect them. And I want to go into the role knowing that sincerely, and them at least knowing that I respected them enough to let them know before I even announced it so that
Sure.
it wasn't a surprise.
Sure.
That's the kind of person I am. And I hope that I've proven that with them. It's the first step,
Hmm.
but it's a step toward the right direction. So that's why I want to run for mayor because I want to help heal Wyandotte County. I want to help heal the relationships between the mayor's office and the commissioner's office. I want to help heal the relationship between the mayor's office and the staff.
Sure.
Um, that brokenness didn't just happen with Mayor Garner. That might have been a work in progress from previous mayors.
Sure.
And so, I hate that, he might have gotten all the slack for that. I mean, every mayor didn't agree with all the all the commissioners. Uh,
Sure.
it might not have been as public, right? But
Right.
it existed.
Sure.
So I don't expect to have the same because
Okay.
I'm going at it with an open mind. I've had an opportunity to talk to him to know what some of the roadblocks. He couldn't share everything, but
Sure.
he gave me this high level that I'm like, I understand because I've been in the mayor's office. I watched it firsthand.
Sure.
So I do not expect to have the same experiences. And many of the commissioners I do have good relationships with that have
Okay.
worked on projects with them, and we've had some positive outcomes from them. So
Okay.
I am looking onward and upward. I'm looking forward to doing more, and I push the reset button on, okay, that didn't work for him, but that
Okay.
doesn't mean it's going to happen that way for me. I even have this button that I'm taking with me and says easy button, and it's an old Staples, and it says that was easy. And I'm expecting that, and you
Okay.
know what? It's all in the mindset. And I know Garner went in there knowing and thinking he could because he was with the police department. So he had relationships
Yes.
too.
Yes.
He is a
Yes.
different person than I am.
Right. Right.
And I was embedded in the community differently than he was. And so I don't expect to have the same outcomes.
Let me say this to you. I think that he would agree that he didn't know what he was walking into because he didn't have the background and the experience that you have had.
Yeah.
So, he didn't know he probably went into it, like you said, with an open mind, but didn't see the real picture. And
Yeah.
I want to tell you that basically what you just said, you gave respect, and I'm sure that you received respect from those individuals that you contacted.
Yes,
Okay.
I did.
And the fact that you have a working relationship with them probably puts you in a different position than maybe he had. I don't know. But I want to tell you this, ma'am. I've enjoyed talking with you. I wish
Yeah,
you all the best of luck. And I
thank you.
hope that we can talk again in 2 years from now. And everything that you just said turned out just the way you expressed
Oh, James, I'm counting on it.
it.
And if it's not, I'm gonna be real about it. But you know
Okay.
what? When we do, I'm gonna tell you how we gonna make it better though, because I'm gonna know how by then.
Okay. All right. Can't ask for anything more than that.
Hey, can we? Can we? Thank you so much. I've enjoyed talking to you.
Miss
Thoroughly.
Miss Watson, it's been a pleasure having you, and I've enjoyed you. And again, I say I'm honored to have you. And I know
Thank
you're a
you.
very busy woman right now, running for your mayor and
Yes,
trying to
sir.
be executive director for your School of Excellence. So
Uh-huh.
I appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedule to give me an hour, and I told you 30 minutes, okay?
That's okay.
But I told you that it might go a little long. But anyhow, I
Yeah,
appreciate your time, ma'am.
I
Best
appreciate
of
it.
luck to you, and I
Thank you.
look forward to talking with you again in the future.
Thank you
Okay?
so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I appreciate it. You have a good weekend, a good evening, okay?
Thank you.
And I hope that the weather clears up for both of us.
You know what? It's already, the sun's not shining, but hey, it's not thunderstorming.
Well, hey, that's better than all what we've had.
Yes, sir. Take care.
All right, you too,
And
ma'am.
to all your listeners.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.